Good day, my people. Welcome to today's topic, which is learning Python with data science day 7. I'm so happy of how we're ranking up these days, and let's see the things that we can cover for you guys, my subscribers. So we're going to go straight to the video. Today's video is just bringing in function and lambda. The last video I talked about function and how function is being used, and I say in our upcoming videos like today, we're also going to dive deeper into functions. Very soon we'll be leaving this whole Python programming thing and going into the main data science and analysis. But I want to make sure that my subscribers, which are you guys out there, you're understanding the concept and understanding everything we're doing, right? I'll basically go straight to the video. I'm going to do a long task with us, which is beginner friendly. So please get your laptop ready, get everything necessary for this particular exercise we're about to venture into. We're going to go straight to my PC. Let's get to business. Okay, so we are in my PC. You know, the first thing we do anytime we come to my PC is to rename the particular folder. If you've not done that, make sure you do that. So now we're in what? Day 7. Rename that here. So I will basically going to bring up an exercise that I have. I'm going to write it up here. The first question is write a Python program that asks the user for a username and password before allowing them to input scores for various subjects. First objective is if the credentials are correct, the program should calculate the average score and determine the corresponding grade based on the following scale. So this is kind of a exam subject in which users are going to basically enter their subject scores for different subjects. Grade A 70 to 100, so the grade A should start from 70 to 100, then grade B 60 to 69.99, then grade C 50 to 59.99, then grade D 40 to 49.99, then grade F, that means failed, right? So below 40, that means we should just write below 40 for that one. And one more condition is if the username or password is incorrect, the program should inform the user and terminate without calculating the average score. Wow, that's so unfair. Okay, we'll basically look into that. So I'm going to just copy the question, I'll paste it on my screen. Okay, so that's the question there. There's the question that we have here. So we're going to go straight to the whole exercise and everything. Be right back. The first thing is for us to write our function. Remember, in the last video I taught you guys about function and I used it for different examples. This function program will basically help us to reuse the code, you understand, to call it whenever we want to call it. And please mind you that in our next video that's going to be coming up, we're going to be creating beautiful modules, our own modules. We're going to use statistics to calculate our average. Watch my last video about modules. You saw when I talked about average using to calculate the mean, the median, and all the stuff. So I'll say import statistic as STS. So the next thing we're going to now do is to calculate the average and everything with the password and the necessary things that are required. I would say DEF. So DEF, we're going to say calculate. We're going to give it. The first thing is to name. The first thing we're going to do is to. The first thing is to create. So I'm going to write and create our function. So we'll say def calculate average score. So you can see when I'm naming my function, I didn't just basically just write whatever that is on my mind. You can see I used underscore, you understand, to give separation between the words that I'm writing them. So after that, we'll come to the next line. Now we can now write our function. So we're going to be writing a lengthy code because this may take a while. So please make sure you're following each step, and I will try my best to make sure I write documentation. That means I'll be writing comments on each step that we're following so that you as my viewer will understand. Remember, I care about you. And one thing I always say, if you don't understand anything, if you have any question, please be diligent to go to the Telegram, ask question, and I will respond to you. Define the correct password. The first one we're going to have is the correct username. So it's the username and the password that we basically want to check. So the correct username of this person, my favorite guy, which is John Doe. Then correct password should be admin 101. Yeah, so we have the correct password. So the next thing I want you to always keep in mind is be mindful of this indentation. Please, you can see everything I have inside of my function like this are underneath this function, because this function holds everything. You can see this one is not outside, it is inside the function. So please be mindful. Is to get the username and password. So get the username and password from the user. So if you say user name should be input, we want it to be user name. Let's go further by specifying enter the username, so that the user will be able to understand what we're talking about. So after this, we'll come straight to the next guy, which is password. And in password, we'll also have an input function, and we'll ask the user to enter password. I'm always adding this column to differentiate the question from the answer. Do you understand? So now we have the first one that will define the correct username and the password. Then we have something that will get the username and also the password. We are almost done with this first question, because we've already gotten the main password and also the username. So let's quickly go to the next thing. We check for correct password and username. Okay, so I'm going to check for the correct password and username. So I'm going to come here and say correct username is equals to username. Please make sure you write the spelling the way it is. Please make sure it's the same. You can see my correct username is the same with this one, and my username is the same with this one. And I will come here and correct password is equals to password. So we have this like this, right? So mind you, I have to add the if. So always add this if to make sure that is aligned as well. So if correct username is equals to username and correct password is equals to password, what should happen next? Now you can now proceed to this calculation of everything, right? So let's say we have various subjects. So it says ask the username and password before aligning them, so which is what we did here. So to impute the scores for various subjects. So let's go to this next guy. So we have to have an input function. So I'm going to proceed. I'll proceed with the score for the various subjects. Okay, the first thing I'm going to basically do, I'm going to create different subjects, and I will put them in a particular variable, and through that variable we'll be able to also calculate the other things that we have there. So we start with grade 1. We want it to be in a data type, right? So I'm going to say I want you to start with float, and in float we want it to be an input function. Inside the input function we want to ask a question: history score. So history score. As a programmer, you have to know how to be fast. So we come here, we just have to copy this first line of code like this, and we proceed to the next line. Let's say we want to deal with 6 subjects. These are the scores for, let's say, the university or the particular department are only 6 subjects. You can keep on adding your own. Yeah. So now the next thing I'm going to change is my variable. Make sure you change your variables. After you changing your variables, the next thing you're now going to change is the subject. Smart sound. So we have all the subjects: history, mathematics, geography, statistics, biology, and agriculture. So now I have an input function that will take all this particular score from the user. So the next thing that we're going to now go ahead is to calculate the average. That's when we're going to now basically use our statistics to basically calculate the average. So we're going to create a variable which is AVG, and in the AVG we'll have the round, and in the round we'll also have the statistics. We say stat.mean. So the stat.mean, now you see why we imported statistics at the beginning. And remember, your statistics works with list. So things that are iterable objects. We have to make sure that there's a bracket here. There's a bracket here as well. So here now we can now say grade 1. Then you can now keep on imputing all the grades that we have there. So after this, we have everything sorted. So I want to round it up, right, to the whole nearest number. So I can say I want it to be too significant. If I want it to be too significant, I have to add 2. But make sure you add this comma, right? You can see there's a comma here. So this one like this belongs to the mean. Why these other brackets that you opened belongs to the round. So this round is you rounding up the whole average stuff. Do you understand? Remember, it's in floats. I remember floats are decimal numbers. So we want it to be 2 significant figure. So we put 2 there. Straight to the next question, which is to determine the grade based of average. I'm going to give a grade base to the student based on the average calculation, right? So remember, that is the question. We're going to now get 70 to 100 as grade A, B, C, F. We'll say if average is greater or equals to 70 and average is less or equals to 100, I guess. Let's say 100, right? Yeah, okay, so 100. Remember, it's a condition. We'll come down here, we'll say print. So I'm going to ask a question now. I want to be able to format something inside of this print. Who can tell me what I'm going to do? If you got it right, make sure you put the answer in the comment section. So we have the format, that is it. Then inside of the format, I can now format whatever thing I want it to be in this message. Your average score, in front of it, I'm going to call the AVG, right? The AVG is the average score. And grade point is A. So here I want to format the username to be at the front. So the username is here, so a little bit space should be given there. So I think we're good, yeah? So if average is greater or equals to 70 and average is less or equals to 100, so you should print username, your average score is average, and your grade point is A, right? Exactly. We're going to now do for B, C, D, and F. So let's copy this. So underneath this one, we'll come to the next line, we'll paste. We also have multiple options in our condition. Who can tell me and remember what we have to do? We use what? The elif. We use the elif to give multiple options. So I'll come here, elif, and in the elif, I will now set the range that I want it to start from, right? So the range is from 60 to 69.99. So here I will change it to 60, then change this guy to 69.99. Then grade point should be B. So now I think I am good to go. So I'm going to copy this guy that we have here. So we'll copy it, come back here, and keep pasting for B, C, and D. Okay. So now let's come to this guy. So this guy will be 50, and change this 59.99, and this guy should be C. Here should be D. Then we'll have something like else. Else, I want you to print. So we'll just say username. We'll say sorry you have failed the exam, right? So we now have these things the way it's meant to be. So you can see we have the first one, which is 69.99, 59.99, 49.99, and we've ascribed a grade point to each and every one of them. We have to make sure that our codes are correct before we proceed. You know, as a data scientist, you have to be very, very careful and be mindful whenever you're coding. Okay, so that is that about this aspect. So now, above all this one, remember the condition says if the username or password is incorrect, the program should inform the user and terminate without calculating the average. Right? So now everything is working if this particular thing is correct. So what if it's not correct? So that is where I will come outside of this particular one. So make sure it's outside of this if, this first condition. So I'll come here, we'll have the else, and the else will now basically say you should print the. We now have everything situated here. You can see the password, everything is done, right? So basically answered this question. So congratulations to you. You've basically programmed with me. Basically, I can run this on its own, right? So no error, right? You see why I say you should always take your time to program. Don't rush. Take it step by step. And for you to be able to see the function, you have to make sure you call the function. So in the function, I will call it by his name. The name is what? Calculate average score. So I'll just have to write calculate, click on tab, and I have that. So I call it like this. So you can see, so the first thing it said I should enter the username. So the username is John Doe. I click enter. So the password is admin, but we have to be mindful that the admin should be correct. Okay, so admin 101. I click enter. You can see it now proceed to the next thing. Assuming I didn't enter the correct password, it won't proceed to this particular one. Can you see that? So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. You guys should, hit that subscribe button if you know. Share this video to some of your friends. You're really programming. You're not turning into a programmer. Wow. All because Blue Ghost is involved. Yeah, I always say Blue Ghost got you covered. So it's nothing for you to fear. There's so much more we can do with this function, right? There's so much more. It's easy, it's understandable, it's just for you to implement them. So firstly is the history score. So let's see if it works, right? So let's say the person got 18, then mathematics, let's say he got 17, geography, let's say he got 45, statistics, let's say he got 65, biology, let's say he got 90, then agriculture, let's say he got 95. I think that subject is simple. Then you can see John Doe, your average score is 74.17 and grade point is A. Hooray! Wow, this is beautiful. If you didn't follow us from day one, this will look like a new thing to you. Yes, if you didn't follow us from day one, this is a new thing to you. You won't understand anything that's going on here. Trust me. So that is why I say, if you've not watched day one, go to day one and watch it. Complete day one. I started from day one to this particular day 7 right now. So you have to basically follow up. If not, you're going to be lost in this whole coding of the thing, right? So please go watch the videos. I have a playlist that I saved them there, so for you to watch, right? Lambda in Python is a small anonymous function that can have any number of arguments, but only one expression is often used for quick, simple functions that are only needed once or few times in a program. Unlike regular functions defined with def, lambda functions are written in a single line and does not require a name. So in this definition, I illustrated everything inside of it. Lambda is only used one time. You understand? It's an anonymous kind of thing. Whenever you bring it in, you just use it one time and that is it, right? So the first thing you always keep in mind is that lambda does not have a lambda name like function. You understand? You just call it only in one line. The difference between lambda and function. Let's start with the function. So let's do something with function. So let's say I want to be able to add two numbers together. All I have to do is just to say def, and I'll call, let's say, add. That's the name of my function, and I'll say a by b, and a by b, I want you to return Okay, make sure you write that B the way it is. So I'm basically done with this particular one. So now all I just have to do is call the function name, and I can say 10 by 20. If I run this, you can see it gives me 30. So this is that for the function using Lambda. Okay, let's also write the same addition that we did using function. So I'll come here, I will start up my Lambda with a parenthesis, and I'll call the Lambda. Then after the Lambda, I give space, then I'll call X and Y. So after the X and Y, I put that column. Remember, this column that we also have here is what we're going to also put here, right? So if I put this one, I'll say X plus Y. So after the X plus Y, I'll come outside of the parenthesis. That means I'm not outside of the Lambda. So outside of the Lambda, I will come here and I will say 10 by 20. If you run it, you see it gives you what? 30. I can see everything I just wrote right now is written in one single line. Let's say I want to add one more thing to this Lambda. All I just have to do is, let's say, call the character, which is Q. And in the Q, I will say I want you to multiply Q. So if you come here now and we put something like 4 in here and we run it, you can see it gives us what? 90. That means 10 plus 20 multiplied by 4, which is 90. Can you see that? So this is you using Lambda. It's just a quick kind of function that we use. So one more example. First thing we're going to do is the function. So we're going to write the function to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, so we have the def, we'll call it Celsius. I'll just call it Celsius conversion. So that's what I want to call mine. So the first thing we're going to do is to get the formula to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit. So the formula for conversion of Celsius is Celsius multiply 9 divided by 5 plus 32. Okay, so we're going to see that. So we'll come here and say return Celsius multiply 9 divided by 5 plus 32. So I will have the def. The def in this particular one, let me give a comment. Let me give a comment. So this one will be the function to check if the temperature is hot or cold. Give it a function name, check temp, and in the check temp we'll have something like Fahrenheit. So we'll say Fahrenheit like this. So please make sure that you also put Celsius, because we're going to get Celsius from the user. So Celsius is going to be there. Then in the Fahrenheit conversion, to check if this particular thing is here, we say if Fahrenheit is greater than 85, then we'll say return hot, else return cold. Okay, so that's that, right? So we've written the first function. So the first function will basically check if the temperature is hot or cold. So if the temperature is above 85, which is very, very hot, you should return hot. Else, that means if it's less than, you should not return what? Cold, right? So we'll take input from user for temperature. In Celsius. So in the end, we'll have the Celsius, temp. So in the Celsius temp, we'll say floats, and in floats, we'll have an input function, and in the input function, we'll tell it enter the temperature in Celsius, like this. Okay, so we have the temperature in Celsius. Then in the conversion, remember we have the Celsius here as the parameter. That means this Celsius will enter this particular one, right? So the Celsius temperature should be here. So we're going to tell the person to enter this particular thing in Celsius. So but watch what's going to happen. So now we say convert to Fahrenheit. Remember, whatever the user inputs here is what we want to now convert. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to say Fahrenheit temp, and the Fahrenheit temp I will call the Celsius conversion. And the Celsius conversion I will now call the Celsius temp. Can you see that? The next guy we're now going to do is, now after this is converted, we want to now check if the weather is hot or cold. So if you check if the weather is hot or cold, what am I going to do? I'm going to say results. So in results, we'll say equals to check what? Check temp. So check temp. Then in the check temperature, we will now bring in what? The Fahrenheit temp. So we call the Fahrenheit. So the Fahrenheit temp, like this. So the first thing we have is convert. After converting, we just created a particular thing there, which is Celsius conversion. Then the Celsius conversion is the function that we already have, like this. Then we'll impute the Celsius temperature, which is the input function. That means it's going to now convert this Celsius that is here. Okay, so we're going to have an error here, so make sure you have the Celsius. Yeah, okay, so the Celsius multiply by 9 divided by 5 plus 32, which is the formula of conversion of Celsius to Fahrenheit. Then this function will check if the Fahrenheit is above 85, you should say hot, else you should say what? Cold. That's just the basic one that we want to do, right? Then take the input function, then we'll create a variable. Remember, this is a variable. Then we impute the Celsius temperature in which the user is going to enter. Then after that, we want the result. We should check for the temperature, then bring in this Fahrenheit after the calculation has been done. You understand? So that's it. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to say print temperature is, you can tell me what I'm going to put here. So I'm going to call what? The Fahrenheit temp, like this. That will say print the weather is what? You can tell me results. Exactly. Okay, so we now have this one where it's meant to be. If we run this now, it's going to give me an issue. Okay, so there was an extra stuff that was not needed there. So run it. So you can see the enter was what? The Celsius and Celsius. So let's enter 50. You can see, so the temperature is 122.0 Fahrenheit. The weather is hot. So that's what we're going to stop for today's day 7. So make sure that you go through all this particular thing and see how you can basically, experiment with them, do your research, and do more examples so that you can basically stick to your brain, right? And remember, we have time codes in this video, so if you're lost somewhere, I have time codes that you can basically click on, and it's going to take you back to the necessary parts that you need to be in the video. Okay, so that'll be all. Stay safe and stay profitable.
Smart Sound.